in that front, if you can stay behind the front, your tornado risk stays relatively low. If you're on the front, you may have a propensity to really spin up. So this is what I'm thinking about right now. Number one, still watching any storms on the line across northern Oklahoma. Those could have some spin ups. Those are definitely going to produce a very significant flash flooding event for the rest of the evening. So please, if you have to travel anywhere across north central, northwestern Oklahoma, be aware if you see flooding over the roadway, please stop. So again, we have the severe thunderstorm line right there with maybe some embedded spin-ups, flash flooding risk, and then we have this rogue storm, which is still discrete and independent, and that's what we're really worried about. That storm right there could be the long track supercell. So, you know, it's moving at about 40 miles an hour. Let's say it turns to the right. How long would it take to come into Oklahoma City? You know, about 3 hours, two to 3 hours. So it's probably going to do Clinton, maybe Weatherford, Hinton. Let me say that again. Weatherford, Hinton, maybe Del Reno. If it turns hard right, it could come into OKC. So we're talking about as early as 8, maybe about 8:30. So that's what I'm worried about, Damon. Really transitioning now to that tornado threat in southwestern Oklahoma.
Yeah, so let's go up into Noble County. Let's look at that tornado warning that was just issued. That is going to be for Noble County. And the speed of that storm is incredibly fast, moving at 60 miles per hour. So let's go up into Noble County up towards Perry, where that tornado warning continues for Perry. And as we go to the east, once again, you can see here it is right here. And this is going to be for eastern parts of Noble County. Still looking for rotation, still finding it right there as you go just northwest of Perry. So Perry, this storm is going to be just east of you. And this thing is hauling 60 miles per hour. Okay, yeah, so making its way to the east here. It's going to move in and out fairly quickly. 539 Sooner Lake, Pawnee 553, Skidee 558, and then we go down towards, you can see a few more communities there as you go in towards Pawnee and Osage County as that line continues to hightail it to the east. So tornado warning continues. If you're watching in Noble County, you're going to be, if you're watching in K County, the storm is going to stay east of you. Let's go to reflectivity. I know there are those of us up in Ponca City and in Newkirk. Curious to know what these storms are doing. Let's look at the big picture right now and show everyone what is currently happening out across the state. So OKC, so far so good. Let's go up to the north. Oh, here you go, Newkirk, Ponca City, heavy rain spreading in. These storms are going to have quite the flooding threat associated with it, which is why we have this flood warning. So Ponca City, Marlin, down to Covington, Wacomas, Enid. Surge of heavy rain continues to move to the east, and we'll see an embedded tornado risk with this. It's now east of Perry, right now up near Sooner Lake as it continues to move to the east. Let's drift down to the southwest. Let's go west of Enid and watch what these storms are doing as we go west of Enid. We'll go west of Enid. No, you're good. So west of Enid, down towards Tennessee, Dover, O'Keene. And lots of storms now making their way to the east. These are right now severe warned on, finding these as to at least have a quick spin-up tornado threat. Strong surge of winds as you go out towards Sealing and Taloga and down towards Custer City. These storms are spinning fast to the east. Going to watch that fairly closely for some hail, but also some strong winds around 60 to 65 miles per hour with that complex moving to the east-northeast once again. So big line of storms moving up to the northeast. Going to be a lot of rain, a lot of flooding rain is going to be coming, is going to come out of this cell. And then as we go out to the west, as you can see here, as you go out towards Hawker, Carter, Sayre, Elk City, some heavy rain continues, and these storms are still out across western Oklahoma, still showing some signs of rotation, although it's not very strong, but we are seeing at least an area spin very close to Custer City. There's some rotation right here with that red and that green butt up against each other, headed up towards Thomas. See inflow coming in with that, so I'll need to watch that. Let's go at the Buck King right now. Buck, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, Damon, I'm on I-40 just west of Weatherford at this point. We're still just trailing the south side of this storm. It's pretty high base. I'm not seeing anything out of it right now. It did dump a lot of rain between Sayre and Elk City, so there's still a lot to come from that. But we're going to turn north here in just a little bit and get a better visual on what it's doing. It kind of looks like it's recycling a little bit. Back to you.
It does, yeah. I wouldn't say that this storm is over, not even close. None of these storms are worthy of putting our guard down, as you can imagine. Let's go back down to southwestern Oklahoma where this tornado warning continues. This tornado warning is going to let's go back up to the north real quick. Let's go up towards Call Lake, K County. Let's check out that. So, and look at the winds that we have coming in towards around Call Lake. as we go up towards the north. Definitely looks like we had some pretty strong winds just east of Ponca City that made their way, not tornadic, but we did just get some gusty winds east of Ponca City. So if you're east of Ponca City, definitely got some strong winds that are coming into eastern Kay County and going into Osage County. Hail for sure. Still finding at least some rotation, not a whole lot of rotation, but there is at least some spin associated with this cell as it continues to move up to the northeast. More concerned as we go down to the south, though, out near Sooner Lake. Going to find at least that tornado threat going to be ongoing as you go just east of Perry. Let's go down to southwestern Oklahoma, where Chris Lee is currently located. Chris Lee, you're still in this tornado warning. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, got it. It's reforming now. It's halfway to the ground. It's just to the west of Highway 6, south of Granite. It's interesting, though. It's kind of like what Michael was saying earlier. I've got about 3 areas I'm watching rotate here in front of me. I don't know if I can show you all of them. There's one, that thing right almost to the road is rotating slowly. This one here is rotating pretty rapidly. And then there's some rotation in this low area just over here. So we're watching all 3 of those areas. This one looks the most promising as far as actually touching down. But this storm is going to go, it looks to me like it's going to go, the area of rotation is going to go south of Granite and pass over the lake. So we're kind of watching to see see if this touches down. But as you can see, I mean, it's halfway to the ground right now. A lot of rotation and a lot of upward motion with that feature right there. And it's also, you could tell it's moving. I have to keep moving the camera. It's moving from left to right. It's going to cross the highway. Highway Patrol just came through here. They're getting ready to block off the road in case it drops down, and so they can keep people from driving into it.
And yeah, that's good advice. So Chris Lee is going to remain on this cell as it continues to move up to northeast. Still very much concerned as we look ahead. It is currently 5:41 on this Monday afternoon. As we look into the next couple of hours, while this storm is going to persist, we're going to go into a significant heavy rain threat, a significant flooding threat for sure. And it's all going to be tied to not only storms like this, but more that we see out across the state. Let's go to Stephen Jones. Stephen, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, we are south of Granite, Oklahoma right now. This storm does not currently have a tornado on the ground, but we are currently seeing this storm start to recycle. We're watching multiple areas of rotation. And as we just witnessed about 15, 20 minutes earlier, we brought to you live here on KOCO that we witnessed a strong tornado with violent motion just touch down right in front of us, move across the road and move north-northeast towards the west side of Mangum. And then it finally roped out, it looks like, just to the northwest of Mangum. So I hope emergency managers out there are looking to see if there was any kind of damage or anything and make sure that no houses were affected. Back to you.
That's a storm that Stephen is on that is going to continue to be this isolated supercell and is going to pose a risk as it goes up to the northeast. So Stephen Jones and Chris Lee are both down near Granite and Mangum. I want to send it over to Evan Onstock right now. Evan, you have an update of the news desk.
Well, I saw it at the Mangum Regional Medical Center. It was on the north side of Mangum. I wanted to give him a call. Just spoke to Linda. They just came out of the shelter. They had 15 people in the hospital at the time. They had 17 employees. They're all fine. She said it did clip the west side of town that she can tell. A couple things she threw out. She thinks that it might have hit. She heard the Church of God, a barn out there, a 4-H barn. We're going to be checking up on that. But she, so far, has not heard of any injuries there. But again, they're saying that the tornado did clip the town of Mangum and that there is damage in that city.
Okay, yeah, we were really concerned about that as we saw that storm coming very close to the northwestern side of town. And so this tornado warning continues. So moving up to the northeast, Hobart at 6:09, Sentinel at 6:10. We go into the community of Rocky. If Rocky sounds familiar, it's because that's the same town that was hit 2 weeks ago by an EF2 tornado. Then we go into Dill City at 6:22, Cordell 6:31, Bessie and Cloud Chief at 6:39. It is currently about 5:45 on this Monday afternoon. So storm track continues to move up to the northeast, and the storm's going to be moving very quickly. And I mean very quickly. So we're going to reconnect on this storm. Once again, let's go back up to Noble County with the other severe thunderstorm, or the other tornado warning that we currently have in place. That is going to be in eastern Noble County, east of Perry. You can see it right here. Still finding some areas of rotation. East of Perry, near Lake McMurtry, going to find at least a cluster of spots of shear and rotation very close to Sooner Lake. As this line, this part of the storm is moving fast, 60 miles per hour, moving to the east with this storm. So that tornado warning continues, and Jonathan highlighting a couple areas of potential circulation very close to Glencoe, southwest of Pawnee. At a storm track this fast, it's going to move in fairly quickly. So we go into Rambo at 5:52, Pawnee at about 5:58. It's going to be about the next 15 minutes from now. And then we go into eventually the Tulsa area right around 6:30. So line of storms, a couple things that we got to hit the message hard on. I know that a lot of us are rightfully concerned about the tornado threat. As you can imagine, it is definitely a concerning day today. The atmosphere is very concerning, but the heavy rain, and I mean the heavy rain, is going to be incredible. If you're watching right now in Edmond, if you're watching in Piedmont or El Reno or Oklahoma City, Blanchard, Tuttle, Minco. This is what you need to get ready for as we go into the overnight. Some of the newest data coming in is showing widespread 4 to 8 inches of rain. We have a high risk for flooding. You can see just in the last 12 hours, really since early this morning, some of these rain totals that have come in. We've seen a solid 2 to 3 inches of rain out across northern Oklahoma, but there are also many areas that have not even seen a drop of rain, and that's going to be changing. So I just want everyone to know as we go into the overnight that we're about to pick up a tremendous amount of rain, and that rain is going to continue to fall as we go well into the overnight, and we're going to be dealing with a big-time flooding threat even as you head out the door tomorrow morning. So right now, these are rain totals that we have seen so far. Lots of flood warnings. Tornado warning continues. Let's go up into Kay County, Jonathan, and look at the latest on these storms that are rolling through, because we got another cluster of storms out near Medford. If you're watching in Bremen, Blackwell, Newkirk, Ponca City, we're going to pick up a lot more rain. Some heavier rain is going to spread in. Got a lot of heavy rain coming in right now. We're about to pick up some more as we go into the next in the next few minutes. So let's see here. Brand new tornado warning has just been issued. This is going to be for Beckham, Kiowa, Washita County. So it'll be for this cell that we have been on. So we have this tornado warning for eastern Noble County. That goes until 6:15, another 30 minutes. That's going to be out of the county before 30 minutes is up. So that's tornado warning that we have. Lots of heavy rain from Newkirk, Enid, you're okay. Lots of heavy rain from Kingfisher to Dover. We'll put a storm track on this line moving to the east. Goes into Stillwater at 5:49, OSU at 5:51. Be on the lookout for some heavy rain, and still watching for a quick spin-up tornado with that cell as it moves to the east. Okay, let's go back down. Let's double check. Let's go back down to this tornado warning that we have in eastern, southwestern Oklahoma. Still concerned about this cell as it continues to move up to the northeast here. So we have Stephen, we have Chris Lee on this storm. This has already produced a significant tornado. Didn't last very long, but it definitely is still going to continue to produce a tornado threat as it moves up to the northeast. Highlighting 2 areas. There's one is a brand new tornado warning that we have. I want to get Shane on this storm if we can. Shane's very close to this cell. So yeah, so tornado warning, as you can see, out across western Oklahoma. And then this cell continues to produce a tornado warning as well. Jonathan, I know a lot of us have been saying, well, you know what, that we've had tornadoes, but we haven't had a lot of those individual supercells in southwestern Oklahoma. But the threat is still there. I mean, this atmosphere is untapped. It is still unstable, and it is still quite warm.
It is, Damon. So what I'm going to do right now, I want to draw where the warm front is. It's a boundary between cold air to the north, warm air to the south. If the storm is on the boundary, it can be tornadic. If the storm crosses over the boundary, it can be tornadic. If it's well north of the boundary, it should really start to die and weaken. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw exactly where I believe that cold front to be. Okay, I'm going to draw a line here. So we're going to start up in Canadian County. Okay, it's going to just come just like this, right down through here. And I'm just kind of looking back and forth. I'm looking at all the data that I have. So basically, like Elk City, as of right now, you're pretty north of that boundary. Elk City right now, you're 53 degrees. It's going to be really hard for you to have a tornado with 53 degrees. But what may happen, and this is what I'm worried about, is that this storm that Stephen Jones is on, that Chris Lee is on, that Sky 5 is coming to intercept, what will happen, this storm may propagate on that boundary. We'll see what happens. Right now, it's colliding into that boundary. It's kind of moving to the northeast. As it runs over that boundary, if it doesn't have a tornado on it, that will enhance the low-level shear. It might spin up real quick. So I'd say Sentinel, Dill City, Cloud Chief, Lake Valley. Please pay attention to the storm. It can still be very tornadic. But once it gets north of that blue line, it will probably die. And then just be a hailmaker and probably just put out maybe a lot of flooding rain. So we got to watch for that. If it latches onto that boundary, listen up OKC, I'm talking to you. If it latches onto that boundary and then turns to the right and just keeps on paralleling that boundary, that would bring it all the way to Oklahoma City. I don't know if it runs over the boundary, goes north, or does it lock on like a Oklahoma streetcar on the tracks? Does it get on the tracks and go down the warm front? If it does, moving at about 40 miles an hour, it would come to the west side of Oklahoma City in about 2 hours. So it's by about 8 o'clock. And that's what we're going to have to watch. Because, Damon, the tornado risk with these storms that are ahead of the front will continue throughout the overnight because the upper level jet stream winds, the low level jet stream winds are very strong. That's what it's all about for tonight. Position of the warm front, position of the storms, any storms on or ahead of it, tornadic potential, and this risk will continue into the overnight.
Yeah, it's now 6 o'clock, and this tornado watch goes until 4 o'clock, and we are running with many hazards for tonight. Still the tornado threat, and we're also going to have the flooding risk that's going to continue to be incredibly high. This storm is still rotating. This storm is not done yet producing a tornado. I still feel very confident that at least the risk of this producing a long track, significant tornado is going to be there. As this storm gets wrapped up into it, though, this is probably going to become the new cell to be concerned about. Still, though, we're right on it. We've got Chris Lee. We've got Stephen Jones putting a storm track up to the northeast. Cambridge, 6 o'clock. Sentinel, 6:07. Rocky at 6:13. Bessie at 6:31. Cloud Chief, 6:31. Corn, Alfalfa, Colony, and then Swan Lake at about 6:45, so a little less than an hour from now. And this storm is still moving fairly quickly. This cell, that is rotating. That is rotating. We got Shane Helton on this storm looking down to the south, so this storm is definitely showing some pretty significant rotation with it as it moves up to the northeast. Sayer, 6:24. Carter, 6:25. Elk City, 6:41, Elk City Regional Airport, 6:43, Canute, 6:48, Dill City, 6:49, Burns Flat, 6:50, and Carpenter at 6:51 with that tornado warning that is now moving up to the northeast. So that one is showing some pretty good solid rotation out across western Oklahoma as it continues to move up to the northeast. And still the atmosphere is very unstable. I mean, it is very unstable. So as Jonathan is highlighting exactly where that boundary is, you stay south of this boundary, you're talking about a tornado threat. And these storms that start to turn more to the east, instead of going more up to the north, are going to be the ones that are likely going to produce these violent tornadoes. So in the meantime, we still continue with 3 tornado warnings. So this is the latest right now with this tornado warning. We got to hit them all up. So there's one. There's a storm going up to the northeast. Jonathan, let's go back up to the north. Check up on Noble County. What's happening with the Noble County tornado warning that we have. And so this could be east of Perry on this cluster right here that is now headed towards Glencoe. So, and looks like the tornado warning, okay, so the tornado warning has been dropped. That's good for Noble County. It's now going into Osage County and in the Pawnee County here, but at least for the time being, that line of storms is now moving into Osage County. And so good to keep that, good to see that risk now diminishing for those of us in Perry. Let's go back down to the southwest. And we'll get an update on what this storm is doing that Chris Lee is currently on. This has already produced at least one strong tornado, and the threat still continues. Let's go to Chris Lee right now. Chris Lee, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, not seeing a tornado on the ground right now. The storm has moved out over the lake to the north of and east of Granite. We can see the backside of it, and looking at the features, I'm not seeing anything coming to the ground right now. We're going to have to go around the lake. It's kind of gotten a little bit ahead of us, but I didn't want to get in front of it, but especially after what we saw over there by Mangum. Definitely had a tornado then. Tried the tornado just here up near Mangum. I did not see a tornado come to the ground, so we're definitely watching it, and we're going to go around the lake and catch up with it on the other side by Lone Wolf.
Okay, yeah, well, we're getting two low-level locks right now on this storm. So one just west of Lugert, one that is going to be very close to the community of Cambridge, just north of Lone Wolf. And we mentioned this earlier. This storm was probably going to this storm is probably going to start to see the tornado risk increase with this cell right here. So this is where we're likely starting to see at least a developing tornadic threat just west of Lugert, just southwest of Lone Wolf, very close to Granite, moving up to the northeast. So this storm is still rotating. We're still finding at least two areas of solid rotation. There's one. There's one, and the other cell as we go out to the west. That storm continues to show the threat for a tornado. So these storms moving up to the northeast. Remember, this atmosphere still very unstable. It hasn't seen a whole lot of rain like we've seen in northern Oklahoma. Enid, we've had a lot of rain today. Ponca City, we've had a lot of rain today, so that's helping keep the risk down. But down to the south and southwest, we haven't seen any storms, which means that the threat is certainly going to continue over the next few hours as these storms move into a very unstable atmosphere. I want to go over to Jess and Evan at the news desk for an update.
Damon, an update from Mangum. The damage that we saw right there, this coming from the Greer County Emergency Manager. We're now hearing several reports of damage. They're figuring out some addresses. We do know that a house west of Mangum took a direct hit, as did a softball field. So that has some damage. An ag barn with pigs is damaged. There was a roof taken off a two-story apartment building there. 4 apartments total, we're told. Power lines are down, as well as now that they're actually sending out 2 ambulance crews, 2 crews with the police department. But again, no reports of injuries right now. This in the town of Mangum, which just had that tornado move through the west and north side of the city.
So let's head up north in the state and go over to Garfield County. Damon, I just talked to the emergency manager there, and he said driving in Garfield County, not a good idea right now. He said someone was actually storm spotting, got stuck in the mud when a tornado came through. He said this guy said that the winds were so strong he was actually hanging onto a gate, and again his vehicle could not move. He wasn't injured, he's okay, but he said he was not in the right spot at that time. They also told me that a car was in a ditch near Wacomas, high water there. A woman got stuck in her vehicle. They were able to rescue her, get her out of that car. The car started to fill with water. Northern part of that county, they said there are several roads that are underwater right now. They're in the process of putting up barricades, specifically between Hillsdale and Kremlin. So we're talking the southeastern part of Garfield County as well as the northern part of Garfield County, both seeing some issues there, Damon.
And I imagine with that size of that tornado and even the storms that we had out across northern Oklahoma, that we had field meteorologist Michael Armstrong on, and as well as Nick Bender and our team. And so the risk is going to continue. We've had a lot of heavy rain. The heavy rain is going to continue. We're going to likely see another round of heavy rain as we go into the overnight, and it is going to be substantial. When we look at some of the newest data coming in right now, and when I tell you that we're going to see some heavy rain, I'm not talking 1 or 2 inches. I'm talking about 4, 5, 6 inches, some areas close to 9 inches of rain. That is what the newest data coming in right now is telling us about the overnight, is that 9 inches of rain. It's a big deal if we get 1 or 2 inches of rain. Imagine 9 inches of rain. And some of that data coming in right now is saying 9 inches of rain in parts of Oklahoma City. We're going to see this transition later, not until about another 3 or 4 hours from now, from a tornado risk into a flooding rain risk, but it's because of all of this right here that is spreading up to the northeast. So tornado warning in Osage County. This is a lot of heavy rain, and it continues all the way down to the west, southwest here. We look at that tornado warning still as you go into Pawnee County. That expires at 6:15, and that's going to make its way. That line of storms is going to continue to make its way going to the east here. So goes into Skidee at 6:02, Merrimack, Blackburn, and Cleveland County, or Cleveland. I'm sorry, the town of Cleveland, not Cleveland County, at 6:15 with that storm moving to the east. So still watching these storms. We're still watching them all very closely. The risk for tornadoes continues. Right now, it is going to be 6 o'clock. The threat for severe weather is not over, not even close. We've got field meteorologist Michael Armstrong, got Sky 5. We got a whole team out right now. Eric's gonna work on getting them up and lined up, ready to talk here. But this warning for up and towards Osage County, tornado warning, gonna watch out for tornado risk. Cade County, you're doing okay. We're going back out to Chris Lee. Chris, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, we are junction of Highway 6 and 283. That's near we're going to on the south end of the lake near Quartz Mountain Resort. We're seeing a lot of lowerings, and several of them from time to time are showing some pretty significant rotation. But it's not. There's nothing that appears to be close to the ground right now. But we're watching this area here, that's just off the south end of the lake. And again, looking at it, there are several areas underneath this inflow area that I'm seeing rotation in here. I just don't see anything coming down towards the ground at this point, although somewhere in there, your visibility gets really bad. That's very heavy rain in the middle there, so it's a little hard to see if there were to be something a little more dramatic in there. But not hearing any spotters. I'm listening to the spotters on the emergency management and amateur radio. Not hearing anybody that's seeing any tornadoes to the ground. Get the windshield wiper going here again, and it's seeing a little more rotation now on this end of the storm.
We're definitely still watching the storm rotating, Chris. We still have two solid low-level locks on this. One over Cambridge, another close to Lugert. So we have Stephen Jones. We've got Chris Lee. This storm is still rotating, moving to the east-northeast. Let's go up to Stephen Jones right now. Stephen, our radar has a low-level lock just north of you. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, Damon, we are currently looking just north of Highway 9. We are just about to Hobart, Oklahoma, just west of Hobart, actually. And if there is a tornado, it is completely rain-wrapped. I have no visual of this tornado because it is completely rain-wrapped. So please, anybody in the town of Hobart or just to the west of Hobart, I would advise to treat it like a tornado is on the ground because we have no visual whatsoever of this tornado. Back to you.
Yeah, I see that, and definitely see that. We definitely see that area of rotation moving up to the northeast. So right now, this is what we have ongoing. We still have severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warnings. We have 2 tornado warnings in western Oklahoma, still getting at least a low-level lock. And this storm is still very potent. Another thing that I don't like seeing what's happening now is you see these individual cells near Carnegie, Godibo, west of Apache. We need to watch these cells closely. They're in the early stages of development, but if these continue to go up over Gracemont, Anadarko, Binger, and that atmosphere is warm and very unstable, then these two could become pretty concerning as well. Right now, they're itty-bitty. They're real small, but we're going to have to watch them close. Let's go to Shane Helton right now. Shane, you're on a tornado warning out across western Oklahoma. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
Damon, I'm actually on the north side of this tornado warning. I'm in Eric, and right now we're getting some pretty good rain, really moderate to heavy rain. I'm not seeing any hailstones or anything like that yet. I'm seeing the ponding in the roadway, a little minor flooding here and there. But I'm heading south, and I'm going to go down there and see if I can get into it and find out what's going on. As you can probably hear in the background, all the alerts on this thing, my phone and everything else, keep going off, telling me that there's flash flood warnings and that there's tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. So anyways, back to you, Damon.
So, and again, that storm out across western Oklahoma still continues to be tornado warning. Looks like a tornado warning is now coming for the storm down by Altus and Lugert. So a brand new tornado warning is about to be issued for Altus and Lugert for a new cell going in. And Jonathan, one thing that I've noticed, and we're going to have to watch these cells right here that are still itty-bitty south and west of Apache, but we were concerned about at least as these cells going up, and you can see in the last couple of radar scans how fast these are going up. So we're watching these. They're small for now, but these could very well become significant a little bit later as we switch radar sources here. This right here is the same storm that produced that tornado and that damage in Mangum. That's moving up to the more north and northeast. But we're not over with the storm threat at all. I know there are a lot of us that have been in Oklahoma City and saying, you know, what's the latest information right now with these storms that are coming in, is that the risk is still very much there. It's still very warm. So the atmosphere is still dangerously unstable, and we have just enough shear in the atmosphere to where that risk is going to continue. So tornado warning continues for Granite north of Lugert. That's a brand new tornado warning, and that inflow is going to be just north of Lugert, very close to Granite. That's tornado warning. These cells are now going up pretty quickly as well. And as we go into the overnight, the bigger story, it will be the tremendous amount of just heavy rain that's going to come in here. I know a lot of us have seen heavy rain, but I feel like we're going to see rain tonight like we have not seen in a very long time, where some isolated areas could easily pick up close to 9 inches of rain. That does include Oklahoma City. So these storms, watching these storms. There's Sky 5. This storm right here north of Chris Lee, that storm is tornado warned on. So that's a new tornado warning, and that's a tornado warning that we have right here. So we have a handful of tornado warnings right now that are ongoing. All these moving to the east, northeast. They're definitely going to continue to keep the risk going for a while. It is now 6 o'clock. If you're just now getting home from work, the latest is that we still have this PDS tornado watch that remains in effect until 10 o'clock. PDS, higher end tornado watch, that stands for particularly dangerous situation. Those are reserved for the days when we can see strong tornadoes. We've certainly had a couple of those already down to the southwest, and then we had a couple of weaker tornadoes out across northern Oklahoma. But the risk still continues. It's still quite warm and very unstable, and so now starting to see new storms going up that will be just south of Alfalfa, southwest of Gracemont, southwest of Anadarko. Those are lifting up to the north and to the northeast. So, Jonathan, let's check out our rotation tracker right now with these cells and see how strong the rotation is with these storms. We're definitely still seeing it, still getting a low-level lock on this, very close to Sentinel. Got to watch that, just west and southwest of Rocky. Stephen Jones is going to be just south of Rocky near Hobart. So Rocky, I think a lot of us are familiar with that town being hit a little while ago. Lone Wolf, also seeing some rotation as we go over there as well. So definitely active down to the southwest, still finding these storms spinning, and the risk for tornadoes will continue. I know there's been a lot of changes and cancellations this evening because of severe weather. Want to send it to the news desk for an update.
And we want to talk about some things here in the Metro. Damon, we heard from some of the malls, Quail Springs Mall and Sooner Malls. They actually closed early. They closed at 5 o'clock today because they said historically people end up going there to the malls to seek shelter, but they are not public shelters, and they did not want people coming to the malls as a safe place. They closed early and they could get their employees home. Also, Mercy Hospital, we made contact with them. They've had a handful of people showing up there. They are not an official public shelter as well. They said they won't turn people away, but they're not an official public shelter.
Want to take you up north into Kay County, Kay and Noble counties. The road there, State Highway 15 at US 77, Fountain Road, shut down indefinitely due to flooding. And this is the same area, Damon, we were just talking about a few days ago, the Shikaski River up there overflowing. So they've already been totally saturated. The Shikaski River, the Cimarron River, the Arkansas River, impacting areas across our state. They were even evacuating there a couple weeks ago. So imagine what's happening there. Also, a quick road closure for you in Greer County in Mangum, just north of Mangum, where we saw that tornado damage. State Highway 34, Mangum will be closed, and we continue to keep a track on the airport. Several flights to and from Will Rogers have been canceled or delayed because of this. Also, speaking of airplanes, Tinker Air Force Base has been moving out their fleet, not wanting to get their planes damaged, of course.
And we want to talk about power outages too, Damon, just to give you an update. About 850 OG&E customers without power right now. OG&E had a plan in place. They activated their emergency plan. They went ahead and got additional material in place. They activated their emergency plan. They went ahead and got additional materials in place. They have 150 crew members ready to go, and an extra 200 being brought in today as well to help out if needed. Also, I'm going to check outages for Oklahoma's electric co-ops as well. We're looking at a little under 2,400 across the state for the Oklahoma Electric Co-op members. Remember, if you see anything happen in a safe place, we want to see your pictures. Send them to us. You can get the KOCO mobile app, and you can can post them on our Facebook page as well, and we'll try to turn those around on the air.
And here in the Metro, as you continue to make your plan for the evening, as Damon said, we are in this for the long haul. So as you're talking with your family members and your friends, also make sure you're checking on if maybe you have elderly neighbors as well. Make sure they have a plan. But the city of Oklahoma City wanted us to tell you, do not seek shelter in those underground tunnels around downtown Oklahoma City. They would be a great spot for a tornado, of course, but they are subject to flooding. So do not seek shelter there. We have several public shelters, and a lot of local school districts have opened up their locations that have now built storm shelters. So as you continue to make those plans, keep that in mind. Do not seek shelter in those tunnels.
And just wanted to pass this along. Certain cities do not have public shelters. That includes Oklahoma City, the city of Edmond. I know a lot of people have messaged us wondering, are there shelters in these cities? OKC, Edmond, Midwest City. We also know Perry, Cordell, Kiefer. They do not have public tornado shelters. There are different safe rooms and storm shelters available in other towns, in Canton, El Reno, Davis, Jones, Binger, Minco. You can check with them to get the locations on those, Holdenville as well. It's important to pass that along to Damon because people need to have a plan in place. The last thing you want to do is be on the road when a tornado is heading towards your area.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be on the road. So let's pull on out, Jonathan. Let's look at the big picture and what's happening across the entire state, because we've got a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that are lined up along this entire leading edge here. I know a lot of us are concerned. These severe thunderstorm warnings are mainly going to be for hail and winds. We'll first take you up to the north. Definitely a lot of heavy rain spreading in from Marshall as you go up towards Perry. We're going to be dealing with a big-time flooding threat for sure with this cell. So we've got from Perry as you go down towards Marshall, north of Coyle, Crescent, Hennessy, Dover, Kingfisher. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning. We're going to get a lot of heavy rain that's just going to spread over this area, this zone, and so that's going to help at least bring down the overall tornadic threat, which is what we like to see. That heavy rain continues out towards Watauga, up towards Okeen, Enid. Have some rain scattered around Alva, up towards Medford, Blackwell. We have some rain as well. Let's pan up to the north, go into Kay County. We'll go up into Kay County, and you can see right here from Bremen to Blackwell, Newkirk has some area of heavy rain. Not in a severe thunderstorm warning, so that's some good news there. Not dealing with a severe thunderstorm warning, but we do have at least rain moving in. I know a lot of us in northern Oklahoma concerned about the risk that's coming in. So once again, I expected the overall threat for Kay County is going to be coming down quite a bit, but now the heavier rain potential sets up from Pawnee, Glencoe, Stillwater, Coyle, Marshall, Covington, Crescent, Dover, towards Kingfisher. Let's go down this line. Let's go down to the west-southwest. As you can see here, from Alpha to Loyal, Watauga, finding some areas of rotation. That cell's spinning very close to Marshall. Let's get an update on this right here. You can see we've got Tyler in the area, but that storm is showing some rotation southwest of Marshall, moving up to the northeast. That one needs to be monitored as it continues to at least be an environment that we have seen tornado warnings earlier. And so with that storm still in the same environment, kind of running over the same area, this is the third spinning storm that we've had in Mulhall. But what we have noticed with any storm that's in this part of the state is that as it moves up to the northeast, it gets towards Perry, and then begins to pretty much lose any type of spin with it. So at 6:45 is when this line will likely be up towards Perry. So that storm continues. Lots of heavy rain extends out towards Weatherford, Clinton, Foss, Burns Flat. Still looking at least for some signs of rotation. As you can see right here, there's one very close to Greenfield. Very close to Greenfield. Let's go back out to Stephen Jones, who will be down in southwestern Oklahoma on the lone, at least supercell, I should be calling it. Stephen, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, Damon, we just passed Hobart, Oklahoma. We are heading north. We are running out just ahead of the supercell. We were in Hobart for getting gas, and we actually noticed a lot of dust being picked up and actually heard some sheet metal be thrown around, but we highly doubt that was being caused by a tornado. That was actually being caused by the rear flank downdraft winds that were probably exceeding 60-plus miles an hour. So not only we have a tornado threat, but we have a damaging wind threat. And the supercell was originally once a classic supercell where we were able to have a complete view of the updraft and the rotation. Now we have a completely rain-wrapped supercell, what we would call a high precipitation supercell, and the rotation right now is hiding in the rain, and barely anybody could see it. We can't get a visual on it safely, but there is rotation in there. There is no intimate signs of seeing a tornado in there, but there could be a tornado forming at any moment. That's why it's tornado warned. So, like I said to people all the time about rain-wrapped tornadoes, even though we can't see it and can't report it, treat it like it's already on the ground. Back to you.
Yeah, great advice there, especially with the atmosphere that we have and what we have already seen earlier today is that Chris Lee, let's go to Chris Lee. Chris Lee, go.
Chris, behind us.
Chris Lee, go.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's swirling or not. You can see the dust on the ground.
Oh, yeah, that's a tornado.
It does. Yeah, no, it is. It's
back there.
A tornado on the ground. It's just to the west, to the east of Lone Wolf. We're coming into the town of Lone Wolf.
We're good.
We're looking back to our east.
Yeah, we're just in front of it now.
It's kind of a bowl of dust, and it doesn't appear to be connected to the clouds, but there is rotation, or was. I'm not seeing the same rotation at cloud base that I was earlier, but there's certainly rotation of the dust on the ground. The road turned on me here. Hang on.
Okay, Chris, so Chris is going to be, Chris is down by Lone Wolf. So Chris Lee, once again, down by Lone Wolf. We're still finding at least that that tornado there that was just west of town. Looked like it may have been a quick spin up. So let me get out of the way over here. Chris Lee currently going through Lone Wolf using his 360 cam here. Once again, Chris, you can pan on down just a bit here so we can see back down to the surface. Look for any more of that dirt getting kicked up. So again, this was coming in from Chris Lee. Definitely had a tornado there. It looks like it may have been brief, but this tornado warning continues, and still finding a solid inflow notch that is going into this storm that Chris Lee is currently on down by Lone Wolf. So that's it right there. That's going to be it right here. Let's keep a 2-box up, show exactly where this is going to be located in comparison to where Lone Wolf is, and we'll have the radar up in this because Chris Lee is going to be located, here he is, he's looking at this inflow right here. So this is just northwest of Lone Wolf, or northeast of Lone Wolf. Moving up to the northeast, Cambridge, Hobart, Rocky.
It's no longer circulating. However, circulating in the clouds is now over here. So that thing there is, the road's not being kind to me here, but that thing is rotating that you see there. And that again is we're to the to the east of Lone Wolf, heading towards Hobart, and it's just to the south of the highway here, this Highway 9.
Yeah, we see that there, Chris. So our radar is still picking up a low-level lock. So that's definitely a tornado trying to develop. But we've got 3 areas of low-level locks within this. When you see these spinning rings, that is going to be where we find at least the area of rotation that will be tightest. And so that inflow right here and that rotation continues to move up to the northeast. So we definitely have at least a couple locks where that low-level rotation is strong enough, moving up to the northeast here. So Cambridge, 622, Rocky, 641, Cordell, 7 o'clock, Cloud Chief moving up to the northeast with that cell. Definitely can see all these. This is our storm impact graphic. What this does is it pretty much cleans up the radar. So green is rain, purple is hail, and then you can see where the red and the yellow, that's going to be our low-level locks here, where the shear is going to be fairly high. So once again, that cell continues to move up to the northeast, and the storm is still tornado warning. This is the same storm that moved through Mangum earlier and produced quite a bit of damage on the western and northwestern side of town and some parts of town there. So the risk for tornadoes still continues, not over yet. We still have at least a couple more hours to go, and then we'll transition into a big-time rain threat. Jess and Abby over at the news desk for an update.
Near Mangum. Damon, you were talking about that tornado near Mangum. We have some damage reports to give you, and we're also getting some information from the emergency manager there in Greer County. The damage there, we know one house was damaged near the airport, as well as a roof that was taken off of an apartment building. In fact, 4 apartments were impacted there. They have no injury reports, so that's the good news. They also had damage to an ag barn. They said there was no power at the courthouse, that several power lines were down. And then at one point, people at the hospital, at the medical center there, they were sheltering. They heard the sirens. They feel very fortunate because they believe the tornado actually jumped the Mangum Regional Medical Center. And we want to see if we can hear from the emergency manager there in Greer County. If we have that sound right now, we'll go ahead and cue it up. Okay, we're going to try to get that up for you so we can hear directly from them. We also know that the State Highway 34 north of Mangum closed because of damage in that area. So that's where we've seen the most damage in the state. I also just heard from the Logan County Sheriff to get an update. Remember the twin tornadoes that we had earlier this afternoon? He said there actually was some damage. One structure was damaged just outside of Crescent. And then in Orlando, that rain-wrapped tornado that Storm Command caught, there was tree damage out there. So Mangum looking like it was hit the hardest today so far.
We also have video. I don't know if we can pull this up from the Mangum tornado earlier today that we received from a viewer. We also had great video from Stephen Jones, who was out there, that damaging tornado. Look at this. Again, this is from earlier. This is not live. This is from Chris Lee earlier today of that Mangum tornado that, as Jess just mentioned, caused some serious damage. Thankfully, the hospital is okay. But again, earlier near Mangum, looking at this tornado, Mangum, Oklahoma. Thankfully, we're not hearing of any serious injuries, but yes, that town has sustained some damage. And this is just one of several tornadoes that we've seen today. Crescent, Cashin, Hennessy. I mean, this has been a wild weather day. Everything just explosive, this atmosphere.
And this tornado hit about an hour ago. This is just after 5 o'clock, 5:12. This was a violent, large tornado. Let's listen now to the Greer County emergency manager.
There's a house west of Mangum out by the airport that has been hit. There is an ag barn where the pigs were that has been hit. The softball field has damage to it. This is all west of Mangum.
Okay.
There's an apartment building on the west edge of Mangum that the roof has gone on.
You're hearing from the emergency manager saying most of the damage in the western part of Mangum, also northern Mangum as well. You saw a few different views. Chris Lee was on this, as well as our storm chaser Stephen Jones. Mangum down in southwestern Oklahoma, if you're not familiar with that town, about 2.5 hours from Oklahoma City, but certainly a lot of damage. It's amazing that there were no injuries reported there.
About 3,000 people live in Mangum, according to the census about 9 years ago. So we're thinking of our friends there as they can continue to clean up the damage in Mangum. Like you said, KOCO Chris Lee, who's been doing this for more than 40 years now in the same market, the most veteran storm chaser in this market, maybe in the country really at this point. He's now on that storm near Lone Wolf, David, where he was saying earlier, looked like a little bit of a lowering.
Yeah, and the risk is still going to continue. In the last couple of radar scans, we have seen the inflow within this cell become more pronounced. You can see it cutting right into that. Chris Lee staring right into it. So if this thing's going to produce a tornado, we'll have no problem at all verifying that to be true. However, that's the inflow. Chris Lee, just west of Hobart. Chris, let's go back out to you. Still watching the storm closely. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
To the west of Hobart, several areas. This area doesn't look as good as it did, almost had a funnel. This is the area that is what's left of what you saw when that dust kicked up.
Okay, yeah, I know, Chris. Chris, we know you're in kind of a bad cell phone spot there, so you're kind of coming in and out. Your picture is still solid, though. But once again, Chris Lee is going to be just west of Hobart, looking due north up towards Cambridge, Sentinel, Rocky with this cell. You see that inflow coming with that storm. A couple more storms are now going up, and so Sky 5 coming up on that. There's Sky 5 located very close to Fort Cobb. These storms continue to go up, and so the atmosphere is still quite unstable. Remember, this tornado watch remains in effect until 10 o'clock. It is currently 6:22 on this Monday. Still watching the threat very closely. These cells have gone up, so quite unstable. They continue to get stronger and stronger. We'll have to watch those cells pretty closely. Right now, Fort Cobb is where Sky 5 is flying right over as those continue to move up to the northeast. On the left-hand side of your television screen, that is coming in from near Lone Wolf. That is coming in once again from near Lone Wolf and Chris Lee. So looking at the big picture right now, we do have 2 tornado warnings in the state. One that will be out across Pawnee and Osage County, and then we have another tornado warning, the one that Chris Lee is on. That is going to continue for Ouachita and Kiowa County. looking at least from a hail standpoint, not a whole lot of hail on this, not very large, but we are looking at we are definitely looking at least the storm that is still spinning hard enough to be tornado warned. Now we got these cells going up from Carnegie as we go towards Broxton, just west of Anadarko. Those are lifting up to the north. We'll watch these ones closely. Right now, these are not warned on, but this storm is still warned on. Stephen Jones is in Rocky once again, and then Hobart is where Chris Lee is located. Still finding at least some low-level locks with these cells as they are still spinning up to the northeast, headed towards eventually Cloud Chief and Cowden, just east of Sentinel. Right now, a lot of heavy rain coming in here, and once again, the heavy rain threat is going to be tremendous tonight. I mean, it is going to be tremendous with just how much rain is going to come in here. Fortunately, once the heavy rain begins to move in, that will help lower the tornado risk, which is good. But places that haven't really seen a whole lot of activity yet: Oklahoma City, Norman, down towards Chickasha, Ninnekah, Rush Springs, Lindsay, out towards Apache. We're going to get some heavy rain coming in. Right now, this cell is going up just west of Anadarko, just near Washita towards Fort Cobb. Sky 5 is currently flying on that right now. You can see their picture in the upper left-hand side of your television screen. And severe thunderstorm warnings continue out across western Oklahoma as well. Let's go back out to Shane Helton. Shane Helton's going to be in this heavy rain mess that is very close to Sayre, right on top of Sayre. Shane, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, from time to time I can hear a hailstone or two hit the truck here. It's pretty small, really, really small probably, but I can't hear it hit the truck. Now, you keep talking about all this rain that might be moving in tonight, and I'm pretty sure this is it. This is what we are expecting to come in and make some of this flooding tonight. So this is heavy rain on I-40 right here at the Sayre exit, and I'm rolling eastbound, and we're going to get out in front of this, then head back south and see if we can catch up on some other interesting stuff. So back to you, Damon.
All right, we'll keep a close eye on your stream as well. So far, when we look at rain totals across Oklahoma, all of it's been concentrated in northern Oklahoma, parts of K County, pushing 3, almost 4 inches of rain. But we will see a solid amount of rain that will come in when all is said and done. Still looking at this storm that we have Chris Lee on. We also have Stephen Jones on. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue out across western and southwestern Oklahoma. So finding a low-level lock in Shear, very close to Shane, putting a storm track up to the northeast with this Shear marker. We're going to put it into Hawker at 633, Granite 637, Elk City 652, Canute, Sentinel, and Burns Flat. After 7 o'clock, Rocky at 720. We go down towards Cordell and Clinton High School at about 7:30 or so with this complex of storms moving in. So the risk continues. Heavy rain, tornado threat not over yet. Over to Abby and Jess for an update of the news desk.
All right, Damon, thank you. We want to take a look back at the twin tornadoes that we captured, these double tornadoes side by side.
Wild.
This was, just a few hours ago at about 3:45 this afternoon. This kind of kicked off the tornadoes that we saw today, and we've seen several at this point. This is near Crescent. We had Storm Command on it as well as Sky 5, and you'll start to see the 2 tornadoes form here. If you're not familiar with Crescent, it's north of Oklahoma City, about 40 minutes. And you see the 2 side-by-side tornadoes. Logan County Sheriff telling us that 1 structure was hit, but there was minimal roof damage, so that's good news. He said this touched down in an extremely rural part of the county there, again, near Crescent. Here's another view that you're seeing of one of those tornadoes, but seeing 2 form side-by-side like that was just pretty wild.
It was quite the Oklahoma weather phenomenon. We also have some flooding pictures we can show you, or if we want to show you the tornado earlier from Mangum, we can go to either one of those, because the twin tornadoes was certainly the most interesting and quite frankly bizarre thing we saw today, but Mangum saw the biggest tornado so far. This is what we saw earlier. Again, this is not live, but look at this tornado in Mangum. We had Chris Lee on this, we had Stephen Jones on this, and this did cause damage across Mangum. We've spoken to the emergency manager there for that county, Greer County, hearing about damage to a home, obviously a little bit of damage to the hospital, correct? But they think it jumped the hospital.
Right. They said
did not sustain serious damage.
Right. They said the hospital was okay, but people were sheltering there. They were worried, and they heard the sirens going off. They said they felt fortunate that everyone was okay, but a house was damaged near the airport. No injuries out in Mangum, so that's great to hear. Now you're you're looking at flooding. That's the other concern right now. This is in Kremlin, which is in Garfield County, and you just see how high this water is. I was talking to the emergency manager earlier out there, and he said it is just not a good idea to drive around in Garfield County right now. They have several roads that are underwater. They've been working on putting up barricades to block them off so nobody would drive through there. They've had people get stuck. They had a woman who was rescued. She was stuck in a ditch. Her car started to fill with water, and they were able to get to her before she was hurt out near Wacomas. And they also saw a tornado in Garfield County as well today.
They have certainly been hit today with this Oklahoma weather. Look at this flooding. Unbelievable. Like you said, several roads are now underwater, shut down. They had to rescue people in Kremlin. And we often talk about the fact that flooding is just as deadly, actually more deadly than tornadoes yearly. So this is going to be a huge threat, not only today, but also tomorrow moving forward. Several counties under a flash flood warning and advisory for tomorrow because of all of the water that we've seen, especially those areas around rivers. The Cimarron River, Arkansas River, Shikaski up north, Kay County, they have gotten slammed with rain in an already very saturated area. So that is what's happened today. We had the twin tornadoes this afternoon in the Crescent area. We had Hennessy got hit with some serious wind, possible tornado there. The rain was moving sideways. People were scrambling to seek shelter. And then, of course, that tornado we just saw in Mangum. And now all the flooding as a result of these storms moving through.
And Damon, I've seen people ask on social, what about the Metro? Is the Metro still under the gun for this evening? Are we in the clear? But this tornado watch, this PDS, particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, is for several more hours, and that includes the Oklahoma City Metro.
It is. And so a lot of people asking, look, across Oklahoma City, it's been fairly quiet. What do we need to know? So getting a report coming in once again, just looking at some of the newest data coming in, is that the atmosphere is still very unstable. And some of the higher resolution data that we have coming in shows that as this complex of storms right here moves towards central Oklahoma and comes towards Oklahoma City, the tornado threat is going to ramp up. So right now at 6:30, we're going to see that tornado risk increase as we go into the next few hours. So I know a lot of people are saying, where's the severe weather? What happened to it all? I know a lot of us, we're only concerned about the weather that's right outside our back door. So if you're living in Oklahoma City, you're saying, where's all the weather? It's coming in, and as these storms continue to move up into central Oklahoma, they're going to definitely pose still a significant severe weather threat. And the low-level jet, the winds are going to increase as we go towards 7:30, and 8 o'clock. And what this event right here reminds me a lot of is an event that we saw last year where we had tornado warnings down here. We went through a brief lull in the period where we didn't really see a whole lot of storms dropping tornadoes. And then right when they got from Chickasha towards Oklahoma City up to Kearney, Chandler, and Shawnee, they started to increase. And I expect that we're going to see at least that potential continue. So I know it's quiet. Things across central Oklahoma down to the south have been pretty nice, really, but that's all going to change, especially as we go into the next few hours. So storms over as we go out towards Alfalfa, Albert, Gracemont. Those are not severe, although those going to get wrapped up in here. Still finding at least these storms that are producing at least some rotation right over Cordell. We have Stephen Jones on it, so Stephen Jones is going to be located right on these cells from Cloud Chief towards Lake Valley, Dill City. All this lifting up to the northeast, as the arrows here will indicate. We'll have to get Stephen on in just a second here, Eric, and see if he can give us an update, because he's right in the heart of where our radar is indicating there being some rotation. You can see right here, there's a mid-level rotation southeast of Cordell. This is the same cell that did produce a tornado down across Mangum earlier that Jess, Evan, and Abigail have been talking about throughout the last couple of hours. But this storm continues to move up to the northeast, and eventually will move into some cooler air, so it will begin to lose some of that significant tornado threat. Remember, it did produce a pretty strong tornado. And then we see another cell west of Granite and Lone Wolf that at least has some inflow coming into it as well. Chris Lee's going to be in Hobart. I want to talk to Chris Lee about that one as well. So these storms are still significant. There's Shane Helton near Hawker, east of Sayre. Let's go to Stephen right now. Stephen, watching your storm closely over Sayre, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, Damon, we are currently just near Cordell right now, and we are completely in the circulation of this storm. And right now we are just seeing nothing but rain. And oddly enough, we haven't seen much in the way of hail either. It's just a lot of heavy rain. And that's what I kind of want to put the emphasis on right now is that the flash flooding threat with this storm is really ramping up. We are seeing a lot of rain dumping right now. So Cordell, places to the north and east of Cordell, I-40 corridor near Weatherford, get ready. I would expect some flood warnings coming your way probably within the next hour or so. We are seeing a lot of rain, and as everyone else knows, it has been super saturated out here the past month, even the past 2 months. So this state cannot handle any more rain. So I just want to put a big emphasis on the flooding threat later. Could even potentially be a dangerous situation itself. Back to you, Damon.
Yeah, the flooding threat really can become quite dangerous. I know a lot of times we don't look at least a flash flood watch with the same type of urgency and the same type of powerful message like we would with a PDS tornado watch. But this flash flood watch that we have is going to be fairly significant. I mean, we've seen a lot of rain lately. We're about to pick up a lot more rain. Northern Oklahoma has already seen about 3 inches of rain. There are lots of roads that are now impassable, water rushing over it. So picking up any more rain is going to be even worse. And we're about to see a lot more rain coming in, as you would imagine. Let's go back out to Chris Lee, who's looking at this cell just west of town out near Lone Wolf. Chris, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, we're kind of between two storms, Damon. There's a storm to our north, that one that Stephen was just talking about, but one building up back off to our southwest, and that's back near Granite again. We just got through that area, and very heavy rain, and that one is severe back over there. Not seeing anything with it that's really significant tornado-wise, but we're going to watch that one for you, too.
Yeah, we're watching that. Definitely a lot of heavy rain, and I think what's probably going to happen here over the next few hours while the tornado risk continues, the heavy rain is just going to be tremendous. So let's pan up to the north, go up over the Kingfisher County area, because there are a lot of storms that we see. See them all lining up right here. This is going to lead to a big-time flooding threat. And I mean a big-time flooding threat. They just continue to go over the same areas over and over and over again. There's Tyler, Kingfisher, Watonga, Thomas, Weatherford. See all the pink? This is an area that has a lot of rain. Slowly, this heavy rain is going to fill down to the south and eventually come into Mitch Park, Edmond, the Village, out towards Calumet, El Reno, and more. But for the time being, at least, the heavy rain has continued to spread up to the north. Give it about another 2 hours, and this complex right here will likely be right here. And it is going to be incredibly wet. And I mean incredibly wet as we go into the overnight time frame here. So good news report right now is that we no longer have any tornado warnings. That last tornado warning that we had over Sentinel and Hobart has been allowed to expire, at least for the time being. Not saying that we're done with the tornado warnings. We still have the potential to see quite a few tornado warnings coming in, and we still see them popping up as you go down southwest of Childress. But the heavy rain potential still continues. As you can see, this line of storms fills from Bartlesville, Elk City, all the way down to Midland here. So a lot of heavy rain, and I mean a lot of heavy rain is going to be spreading in across Oklahoma as we go into the next few hours. A couple cells now going up east. You see right here towards Wetumpka, Ada. Never like seeing these cells that are all out by themselves. When they do that, they can pretty much use all the energy that is around them. They don't have to worry about having any of their energy kind of sucked out by any other storms that are nearby like these are currently doing. And because of that, that has been allowed to keep the tornado risk on the lower end of things, which is where we like to keep them. But still, the tornado threat is still very much alive and well. And as we go into the next few hours, still expect that we're going to see at least a few isolated, embedded tornado risks and within this entire complex that's going to eventually move up to the northeast. So right now, heavy rain continues. There's Nick Bender over Binger. We have Sky 5 looking into Alfalfa, Stephen Jones and Bessie, Chris Lee near Sentinel, Shane near Hawker. Let's go to Shane Helton right now. Shane, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Well, Damon, as I'm pushing east, I'm finding out that there's still quite a bit of flooding, minor flooding that is, on the roadways here. In fact, there's some areas where I've just about come to a complete stop before I went through it because I wanted to make sure that the roadway was safe. I didn't, you don't know if the road is washed out underneath the blacktop, even though you can still see the blacktop and the yellow and white lines on the blacktop. You don't know what's underneath there. So I have definitely been very careful. Lots of ponding on the roadways, but this is all moving east, and it's got good heavy rain here. So I know that we're going to have to be watching this real close as it comes in towards Metro and stuff like that this evening. Back to you, Damon.
We will be watching it very closely as it continues to move in. Let's go back up to the north. Let's go up towards Payne County, Stillwater. A lot of heavy rain coming into Stillwater right now. And there's going to be some solid rain totals and a significant flooding issue. As you can see, all this heavy rain continues from Perry to Stillwater, Mulhall, Crescent, Kingfisher, Dover, Hennessy, Lacey down to Alpha. All this heavy rain continues just to roll right over the same spots. Got to look at this that's a little bit of an inflow near Cashin. Is that north or south of the about? North. It's north. Okay, that's what I thought. It looked like it may have been just a little bit farther north of the boundary. Why that's important to you? This boundary. If you step outside and it feels cool, that's more of a hail threat. If it still feels warm and unstable and muggy, you're still dealing with the tornado risk. So, still finding some heavy rain from Cashin out towards just south of Cimarron City. As you go out towards Navina, Lakeview, out towards Okarche, Greenfield, Omega, Alpha, out towards Watauga, lots of heavy rain. And then even as you go out towards west of Greenfield, heavy rain continues from Hinton out towards Calumet. So at the moment, we currently do not have any tornado warnings. We do have a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings, although the severe thunderstorm warnings probably are not the most important thing out of all of this. Instead, it's going to be the flooding that is about to begin to unfold. I mean, you've got more thunderstorms that are now building up from Lookeba as you go down towards Albert, and eventually as you go down towards Carnegie, Alfalfa, Cloud Chief. Lots of areas of rotation, not very tight. We do see at least one section. We still got to watch closely out near Sentinel and Cambridge, just near, just northwest of Hobart, where you have Chris Lee, and these severe thunderstorm warnings even extend down to the southwest. Still going to look at a very unstable atmosphere down across southern and southwestern Oklahoma, and we'll look into this cell where Chris Lee is currently located. We're going to find at least a little bit of an inflow coming in with this cell. Not very tight, but still at least evident enough on radar to where the tornado risk is definitely not zero with that. Let's go to Chris Lee. Chris Lee, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, just south of Cordell, the town of Rocky. As you recall, Rocky hit just a couple of weeks ago by a small tornado, an EF2, did damage out here. We're watching some rotation as this storm moves off to the north, an area it's north of Rocky. It's north of it's to the east of Highway 183. Not anything close to the ground, nothing like what we've had a little bit earlier, but we are definitely seeing an area that we're watching as this storm moves off to the north-northeast.
Okay, yeah, we're watching that area closely as well as it continues to move off to the north-northeast. Once again, not tornado warned, but this is at least an area earlier today where the environment for this to produce a tornado was definitely there. It did produce at least a rather large tornado for a few minutes. So Cambridge, 645, Rocky at 658, Cordell, 711, Bessie, 718, Cowden at 725, Corn, Colony, Eakley, right around 7:30 with this line of storms that continues to move up to the northeast. So some heavy rain, and really all these severe thunderstorm warnings that we have had have been mainly for wind. Stephen Jones, currently located in Cordell, inside the severe thunderstorm warning. Stephen, out to you we go. Stephen, give us an update.
Hey, Damon, we're here just east of Cordell, just trying to get east of this storm. One thing I just want to tell you, we just went through absolutely some very heavy rain. I mean, it is dumping on Cordell. And as we were getting through some of the town streets, it was becoming very puddled with water. So I would advise, it looks like on radar that there's going to be more rain coming into Cordell. So I would anticipate more flooding issues, especially for downtown Cordell and any of the side streets or any of country back roads. I would definitely avoid those roads and do not drive down them because flash flooding is becoming a major concern. Back to you, Damon.
Major concern as we go into this evening. So for those of us that are stepping outside at this moment and you're saying it feels different, like the temperature just dropped by quite a bit, this front is now pushing through parts of Edmond and into northwestern Oklahoma City, which means that that's going to help at least temper the overall risk for a little bit. Some of the newest data shows it coming down and then lifting back up to the north, so definitely not in the clear just quite yet. But with this cell moving up to the northeast, You can see those that are going to be in the path and the times. All of us that are in this, all of us that have our towns listed here on the left-hand side of your television screen. Be on the lookout for at least some heavy rain, some gusty winds, 60 miles per hour. There's still definitely a tornado threat. This storm has produced at least a risk over the last couple hours. It was at one point isolated. Now it's merging into a big old cluster here, which is going to help bring down the overall tornado threat. But some of the newest data that we have coming in still shows a ton of rain coming in during the overnight. If you're in Oklahoma County, if you're in Edmond, Piedmont, Yukon, Oklahoma City, out towards El Reno, I would prepare for many, many, many inches of rain. Some of the data that we have coming in right now shows 6, 7, 8, 9 inches of rain across Oklahoma County. Then you go into Cleveland County, Moore and Norman, and it shows about 2 inches of rain. So it's definitely going to be a very tight rain gradient that we're going to see that's going to run across here. That would be the airport, so southwestern parts of Oklahoma City. Right now, the newest data that we have shows about 5.3 inches of rain, and then higher amounts as you go just north. But you'll see here the rain gradient is going to be very tight. It's not nearly going to be nearly as heavy as you go down towards Purcell and Pauls Valley, nor as you go out towards Pottawatomie and Seminole County, where we're just looking at a little bit of rain. Definitely a swath of some very heavy rain still continues from Ponca City, Stillwater, Perry, Enid, Oklahoma City, out towards Kingfisher, Watauga, Clinton, and down towards Hobart. Jonathan, we haven't had any tornado warnings, at least in a short amount of time, but still that risk continues as we go into the evening.
We're going to have to watch it very carefully here, Damon. I know a lot of people probably looking at the radar and say, okay, so how are we at for tornado activity? Well, again, no tornado warnings on the line right now. So what's happening is all these severe thunderstorm warnings are all latched on to this warm front. On the warm front, sometimes, yes, they can absolutely rotate if they're discrete, but notice that we got just a bunch of, it's coupled. It's like a daisy chain of severe storms, and they're all kind of interacting together, right? There they all are. Boom, boom, boom. And so sometimes they're going to be fighting for some of that moisture and some of that inflow. We may have some pockets along this line that could maybe look more supercellular. Maybe they can spin up very briefly, almost like a couple weeks ago when we had the Rocky tornado, similar setup. We just have to wait for that to evolve. But I will say this, all the air to the south of this front is extremely humid. It's tropical. Dew point temperatures are in the lower 70s. Air temperatures are, it's 80 degrees down near Chickasha, Washington, 81 in Pauls Valley. But you get up to like Yukon, it's only 63 degrees in Yukon. It's only 57 in Kingfisher. It's only 49 over in Camargo. So any storms, again, that go in that environment will be highly conducive for being severe and for rotating. Now, we're going to have to kind of watch a few storms. I'm kind of watching right now this storm kind of between Colony and Eakly. Damon, this actually looks a little bit like a little bit of a supercell. It's kind of stretched out a little bit, but there's like a little bit of a hook kind of coming through here. It's not worn, it's not severe, but that's just kind of the thing that we need to kind of watch over the next couple of hours. Yeah, we do. And we will be watching that as it continues to lift up to the northeast. We were seeing these cluster storms going up, and at least what we see on radar is a bunch of little echoes down in southern Oklahoma. Nothing all that imminent, nothing all that significant yet, but still, you keep a close eye on this one. Let's go back out to Chris Lee. Chris Lee has been kind of in the heart of a lot of these tornado warnings. Still finding some rotation just west of Chris and very close to Chris. Chris, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, we're just south of Cordell, and I'm seeing a lowering here. It doesn't look like your typical wall cloud, and maybe it's not attached to the cloud base. That's what I'm not seeing. I don't see a lot of rotation with it, but there's a lot of rain. I say a lot of rain. It's raining hard here, but there appears to be, feeder band with what a wall cloud does, where you see a kind of a tail going into either side of it, where moisture is feeding into the storm. So it does appear to be some sort of inflow feature here just to the south of Cordell, but I can't tell a whole lot of rotation, but it's very, very low to the ground. That's what really caught my eye. So we're definitely going to watch it as we come into town and see what it's going to do, or if it's anything significant.
Well, that's we're watching that storm closely as well, Chris. And again, your eyes in the field are very important in helping get the message out. Radar can only tell you so much, but these pictures that are coming in are certainly quite important. So that's what Chris Lee is looking at, that area, that lowering in between Sentinel and Cambridge, moving up to the northeast. So putting a storm track goes into Rocky at 6:58. We go into Cordell at 7:14, Lake Valley, 7:18. Cloud Chief 723, Cowden at 735, Corn, Cowden Junction, Colony, and Alfalfa between 7:30 and about 7:45 with that line of storms is moving up to the northeast here. Still at times finding a low-level lock on our radar. That's still evident from time to time. So the storms still want to rotate. So let's see a few more cells now going up as we go just to the east. As you go out towards Colony, there's Cowden Junction, northeast of Cowden. This area showing rotation. We have Stephen Jones looking right into that. We'll have to get Stephen on in just a second. Slowly showing some signs of rotation. And then another cluster storms out going up as you go out towards Lukiba and out towards eventually down towards Swan Lake and Albert, west of Gracemont and west of Kogar. Stephen, looking at your storm closely right now, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Hey, Damon, I got a complete view. We're finally out ahead of this storm. It's definitely a rainmaker, so flooding's the number one threat right now. One thing I want to say about the tornado potential is that this storm threw out an extensive gust front. That means that the cold, stable air pushed out ahead of this thunderstorm. And I'm not going to say that the tornado threat is gone, but typically when thunderstorms do that, the atmosphere around it becomes too stable to produce tornadoes. So it could be going through a really big cycle, or it's really thrown out an extensive gust.
Yeah, that
threat has lowered right now.
That outflow,
Back to you.
yeah, and Stephen, that as Stephen just mentioned, that outflow can really help improve the situation. By improve, I mean help decrease the overall severe weather risk that Stephen's there just talking about. Still, though, looking at a severe thunderstorm warning from Corn out towards Burns Flat. Line of storms continues down across southwestern Oklahoma. This entire wave and all this hot pink that you see on the radar, that's a lot of heavy rain, and that's still going to continue as we go into the overnight. Let's go at the Buck King. Buck, give us an update. Where are you and what are you seeing?
Damon, I'm just on Highway 37 south of Hinton, trying to get down here to where these two cells might come together and see if we can pick up anything starting to rotate. From where I'm at right now, I can't see anything but a bunch of low-hanging scud. And I haven't had a lot of rain out of these cells yet, but, I'm sure as they come together, that rain's going to fall. Back to you.
I'm watching that closely, and a lot of times that low-hanging scud can kind of give an idea of a bunch of kind of tornado lookalikes right now. For the last 20 minutes, we have not had any tornado warnings. Good news. Does not mean that the risk is over. It's far from over. As we go into the next few hours, the low-level winds here in the atmosphere are going to begin to increase. That's going to help continue to at least keep a tornado threat persisting with this cluster of storms. But so far, we've been in a pretty good situation with the exception of a couple of tornado warnings that we had out across northern Oklahoma. We did have some tornado damage down across southwestern Oklahoma. We've really seen quite a bit of heavy rain that's been coming in, and that flooding threat has really been a big-time concern over the last couple of hours, and that's really going to ramp up as we go into the overnight. Getting some reports now out across K County of water rushing into some of these buildings here. So the tornado threat is down across northern Oklahoma. Flooding threat is up out across northern Oklahoma. Same thing from Bridgeport to Weatherford, and as you go out across northwestern parts of the state. If the air feels cool, you're south of the front, and we can actually see that front on radar right now that extends from Yukon up towards Edmond. So this area, at least for the time being, weather is cool, air is cool, which is going to keep at least the risk down south of the front. So Mustang, OCCC, Moore down towards Norman, Toll Booth down to Amber, Middleburg, Chickasha, Minco. You're still in that unstable atmosphere, still very unstable. Let's go with the field meteorologist Michael Armstrong in Storm Command. Michael, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, Damon, low clouds right here makes it look very stormy, but this is just the edge of the boundary. So we're approaching Union City, which is where we were earlier when that storm started that went all the way up through El Reno and went up to the north and produced tornadoes. So we're back down in this area again, and I think this really answers the question a lot. My 360 cam right now showing what you're going to see is our cameras are going to fog up. So people have probably been noticing that as they've been driving around. When you cross the cold air into the warm air, instantly your windshield will fog up. You need to be really careful with that. Actually, your visibility will go to nothing. Like you won't be able to see. So until you get your window defogged there. So we're going to move down into this area. One good thing, like you mentioned earlier, the storms up to the north have put out some cold air. and that's helping limit the tornado threat. But we still need to be, if you're anywhere near the boundary and a strong storm comes up near the boundary, it can actually pull the boundary further north because of how intense these storms could be. So we cannot write off the tornado threat for the south side of the metro. Somebody was just asking me about El Reno. Can we lower the risk for tornado in El Reno? We're getting close to being able to do that because the temperature has dropped into the 50s back in El Reno. We just got to be really aware of this boundary. It's just, if you've got a north wind, folks, and it's getting colder, that's a good sign. Your tornado threat's going to drop, but your flash flood risk continues. No matter whether you're in south winds or north winds, the flash flooding risk does continue.
Yeah, the flash flooding risk is definitely going to be just as big of a threat as we go into the overnight. We mentioned earlier that today was going to be one of those days where we're going to see a much higher end flooding risk, and that is still on track. That has not changed at all, which is still very concerning because the radar is now lighting up like a Christmas tree. There's so much rain on it, so much heavy rain. And it's going to continue as we go into the overnight. We're not done yet. So Mustang, Oklahoma City, down to Norman, Goldsby, Bridge Creek, Tuttle, as you go east towards Shawnee, Tecumseh, and out towards Seminole. Still need to be prepared for a ton of rain as we go into the overnight. Right now, things have been quiet. That's good. That's very good. I mean, right now we've been in a pretty good situation throughout the day. I know we've had some tornadoes. We've had some strong tornadoes. They've been brief. But at least today has not been the day of where we've had a ton of long track, significant, strong supercells. That chance is still there, though. We're not done. Remember, this tornado watch continues until 10 o'clock, and here it is now almost 7 o'clock. So the risk is still going to be there. We're not in the clear yet. Still, at least for the time being, the storms are staying west and north of town, moving up to northeast. Let's look at the big picture here, Jonathan. Let's go up to the north. Let's look at some of the rain totals that we have seen in the last 12 and 24 hours. I know there's lots of flood warnings happening out across northern Oklahoma. I know Blackwell, Ponca City, we've had a lot of rain lately. And when you look at some of these rain totals just in the last 12 hours, look at these: 4.5 inches, 3.2 inches of rain. You look at 4.2 near Covington, Billings 4.5, Tonkawa over 3 inches. How much has Ponca City seen? Because I know Ponca City has had some solid rain totals there. 4 inches. Blackwell has had a good amount of rain. Out towards Enid, we've had a good amount of rain. There has been a lot of rain, and then where this red is, you can see this has been a solid 4.5 inches of rain. So we've definitely had a lot of rain. It's been raining throughout most of the morning. As we go into the evening here, a lot of this heavy rain is going to shift down to the south, and we're still looking at a lot of rain coming in here. I mean, we're not looking at, just an inch or two. We're going to pick up some rain totals that are really going to impact us tomorrow morning when you try to go to work. I expect that we're here across Oklahoma City, South OKC, out across western parts of the metro, out towards El Reno. We're going to have some closed roads tomorrow because of some of the flooding that's going to happen here. So far, a lot of this rain has been just rolling over the same locations, which is now bringing down the risk for northern, northwestern Oklahoma, but the risk is not over. Jonathan, we still have a ways to go before this threat is going to be over for good, but it continues for a couple more hours. We still have
81 is closed at the Oklahoma and Kansas border because of water over the road. That is a major highway, and it is closed. I think we're going to see a lot of that tonight. So again, it's about 7 o'clock. Weather killer. I did a series of weather specials about that where we took a car and we drove it into the Oklahoma River, and I showed you how fast your car is going to sink if you drive your car into flash flooding. And that's my biggest concern. I did that story because I want to show people how quickly that happens. And now we're going to transition to a very heavy flooding event for tonight. We've already had that across northern Oklahoma, and I know Oklahoma City, you're thinking, well, we just haven't had our storms yet. When are we going to get our storms? How much time do I have? That's a really good question. Trust me, storms are still on the way. I want you to look at the big picture, okay? Storms go all the way down to Midland, Texas. That is hundreds of miles away. That is 350 miles away. What will likely happen is still this upper level jet stream wave as it comes in. It still is going to feed off all this tropical humidity. Now, we'll watch these storms down near Lubbock, down near Midland. They're going to come in. This is going to form a big complex of storms, and they, again, may move over the exact same area during the overnight. So since so far today, we've had heavy rains, Ponca City, Perry, Stillwater, Hennessy, Kingfisher, Watonga, back down the southwest. Eventually, that will come into Oklahoma City. You just got to give it a couple hours. I mean, I definitely don't want it here because it's not going to take much to produce flash flooding, but eventually it will get here. What we're going to look for, again, are for storms to fill in down to the southwest, and that's the Plinko effect, okay? So we're going to look for storms down here. They get caught up in the flow, and they start coming to Oklahoma City. So we're still several hours out, but this literally might take all night long for storms to be moving into the area, and that's one thing we're going to have to watch. We are not done with the storm threat for tonight by any means. So one thing we can do here is switch over to WSI 1. I'm going to show you the predictor timeline. So you're looking at radar, that's real time. Now we'll transition over to WSI 1. It's another one of our weather computers. If we can have the director go ahead and do that. And what we'll do is I'll show you as we go into the future how this wave of rain will evolve during the overnight, okay? So let's back it off here a little bit. So time check right now, it's about 7 o'clock. There are the storms. That lines up perfectly. Here they come into Oklahoma City by 9 o'clock. Training effect, boom, flooding, 9, 10, 11, still raining. And then look at that big wave of rain. That might take all night to get here. That's the final push, and that comes in about, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And that would be the final push of extremely heavy rain. So, Damon, it is going to be a long night ahead.
It will be a long night ahead. And Control, we can go over the WSI 2. We can show you some of these metro rain total expectations that we're looking at right now as we go into the overnight. Look how tight the gradient is going to be. Right now, some of this data coming in says ½ inch to about 1 inch from Newcastle, Moore, Norman. But then you go up into OKC, 1.3 inches, and then you go up to Bethany, Edmond, 3.7, 5.2 inches of rain. 6 inches of rain in El Reno, about 6 inches of rain out in Piedmont, 4.5 inches of rain in Luther, almost 2 inches in Choctaw, about 1 inch in Midwest City. So there's going to be a very tight rain gradient that is expected to occur across Oklahoma City as we go into the overnight here. And with this data coming in, goes to show you just the micro details that we're going to have to look at. But I do expect that we're going to have some closed roads tomorrow morning, some flooded roads, some incredibly high rivers that are going to be spilling out of their banks. A lot of the creeks that are typically just little trickles of water in Edmond and northwestern Oklahoma. I know they've had rain in them for the last couple of months. That rain's going to continue, and that water's going to get quite high. So this is what we're looking at as we go towards tomorrow morning, Tuesday, about 6:30. We're still getting a lot of heavy rain, many, many inches of rain, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. So definitely not in the clear yet. We still have a ways to go, but at least as of right now, we have not seen a ton of severe weather across northern and western Oklahoma. We've had it. We haven't seen a whole lot, but that chance is still there. Let's go to Shane Helton right now. Shane, give us an update on where you are and what you're seeing.
Well, Damon, I am straight west of Dill City. And look across this field here, if I can get my camera adjusted on it very good. You can see that these fields are just flooded. There's so much rain here that the fields are flooding and the ditches are filling up, and actually some of them have quite a bit of rushing water in them. So I'm actually hearing law enforcement traffic on the radio, too. They have a swift water rescue going on right now, and it's back to my west. But other than that, we've had lots of rain here, and it's really causing problems. Back to you, Damon.
Yeah, definitely lots of rain, definitely lots of problems. Seeing that Medford right now, Highway 81 closed due to flowing floodwaters going over. So we are still seeing quite a lot of floodwaters that are happening and a lot of flooding happening across right now northern Oklahoma. But that chance as we go into the next couple hours, we'll have to watch it. Let's go back over to the news desk for an update with Jess and Abigail.
Speaking of this flooding, Damon, thank you. Just got off the phone with our friends in Ponca City. Reports in Kay County of water now going into buildings, and that that does include the police department. They have a little bit of flood water. They said it's not bad, but some flood water now entering the police department building. He said, thankfully, though, the water has started to recede a little bit. They had some roads closed. Those have been allowed to be reopened, but they're watching radar right now along with us and realize that they might be getting some more rain soon.
And I know you mentioned Blackwell, Damon. I checked with the police department there. They said they've just had minor flooding at this point, no rescues or anything like that, so that's good news. But we are getting reports of several roads that are closed in the Medford area, so in northern Oklahoma and Grant County. US 81 north of town all the way to the Kansas state line is closed right now, as well as State Highway 11 just east of Medford to I-35. They have water over the roads there. Also roads underwater in Noble County, also more in the northern part of our state, from State Highway 156 and County Road 170 to US 177 north of Sooner Lake, as well as the Marland area. ODOT has been putting out barricades near those areas and closing off those roads. And then in southwestern Oklahoma, State Highway 34 closed because of the tornado damage out there in Mangum. But we're certainly getting these reports coming in, Damon, of roadways that are closed because of high water around them.
And I'm not surprised by that at all. That's an area that picked up about 3 inches of rain just this morning alone. But when you think about all the heavy rain that we've had in the last couple of days, weeks, months, we're definitely looking at pretty much the state not being able to handle that much more water, and so this just makes things even worse. As we look just west out towards Calumet, Bridgeport, Hinton, Lookeba, still finding lots of heavy rain. It's going to continue to make its way up to the northeast, and it's going to go over the same spots. Calumet up towards eventually Cashion, Lakeview, Guthrie, and that's going to eventually come into Oklahoma City as well, as we just showed you western and northwestern sides of the metro. Still, though, heavy rain continues. Some very small hail, and the only severe thunderstorm warning that we have in the state right now is going to be this cell out by Cordell, Rocky, Cloud Chief, Corn, Weatherford, Clinton, and Arapahoe. This is mainly going to be for some winds. Not a lot of hail, but definitely looking at some strong winds, pushing out to about 60 miles per hour. And we do get the occasional strong wind reports coming in out of this. So this warning expires at 7:30. Still finding some pockets of rotation. Very weak, but it is still, at least that's picking up a little bit there as you go down towards Lake Valley. We have to look at that one pretty closely. Who's the chaser close to this? Chris Lee. Let's get Chris Lee on the phone, because we are at least seeing a little bit of rotation. Got some inflow coming in near Lake Valley north of Gotebo, putting a storm track up to northeast on that. This could be the beginning of what that low-level jet's going to start doing to our atmosphere, which you're going to start seeing these storms begin to spin as they begin to push right up against these storms. So Cloud Chief at 712, Cowden at 725, Colony 736, Eakley 745, Sickles 8 o'clock, Hydro at 8:04 with that particular thunderstorm, and still finding at least an area, low-level lock, a spinning red ring that's there when the radars begin to show at least some signs of rotation. So we're not out of the woods yet with this cell. Moving up to the northeast, still in a severe thunderstorm warning. The severe thunderstorm warning inside of this PDS tornado watch that we have. You can see on the upper left-hand side of your television screen. That is Sky 5 that is currently out near Gracemont. You can see also we have Eakley, the bottom left-hand side of your television screen. That picture will be coming in from, I do believe, that will be coming in from field meteorologist Michael Armstrong in Storm Command. But still, storm continues to make its way up to the northeast. So right now, the most significant storm in the state when it comes to any type of tornado threat, it's going to be this cell right here, just west of Lake Valley, southwest of Cloud Chief. That's going to be just north of Camalti, north of Hobart, northeast, sliding up to the northeast here, and you can see that storm track that we have. So finding some spin. Let's go to Chris Lee right now. Chris Lee, our radar is indicating at least some rotation that is going to be just southwest of Cloud Chief. Give us an update on what you're seeing.
I'm not seeing anything that looks like it's rotating. We're looking back towards Cordell on Highway 152. Very dark, obviously. We were seeing a lot of rain and some local street flooding as we went through, but not seeing anything that seems to be too concerning up and down that line, at least from what I can see. But certainly watching it to see if anything is lowering, or there are some areas that are lower. I just can't see if anything that's actually rotating that looks concerning. But we're watching it for you, David.
Okay, yeah, we're watching it. We're watching it closely as well too. Once again, Chris Lee still looking at that area of rotation that is going to be northwest of Godibo, west of Alfalfa. I'm sorry, northeast of Godibo. Also seeing another area of rotation very close to where Stephen Jones is located, close to Eakley. We also have Nick Bender looking into this cell, looking at this inflow notch that is going to be southwest of Hinton, just west of Lokiba. As we zoom in on this cell, this is going to be north of Fort Cobb. See this little inflow, see this notch. A lot of times you can see at least a tornado risk ramp up with this right here. So watching this one once again as we're going to be out near Sickles, west of Lukiba. Once again, not a tornado warning. We do not have any tornado warnings in the state right now, but we do have at least a tornadic threat. Let's go out to Chris. Okay, let's go out to Chris. Let's go out to Chris Lee. Hey, Chris Lee.
Yeah, yes, I'm here. I've got a funnel just to the west of, to the east of Cordell. It's, I can't tell for sure that it's rotating, but certainly the shape is certainly concerning. It is along the leading edge, and it is moving fairly rapidly towards the west. Towards the east, just south of Highway 152 here. Again, I'm not seeing with the rain and it getting darker, it's hard to tell a whole lot of definition. But boy, with that shape, it's certainly very concerning right there along that along the leading edge there, and kind of I can't tell that it's an inflow area, so it could be an outflow feature, but we're certainly going to watch it here for a minute, Damon.
Yeah, I definitely would too there, Chris, currently down by Cordell. Yeah, anytime you see a lowering like that, and an atmosphere that we currently have in place, yeah, that's definitely concerning too. So not tornado warned, but you definitely saw that lowering there quite clearly here on Chris Lee's stream. And so definitely keeping a pretty close eye on that. We still have about another hour or so to go before we begin to lose that daylight. But Chris Lee is going to be located right here. We can see those areas of rotation, those green streaks. Those are going to be at least some areas of weak rotation. Not very strong, but definitely persistent. So I got to watch this spin as these storms continue to begin a little bit more, what I'm going to say, inflowy. That low-level jet's really starting to play a role in the increasing tornado potential. I know we've gone through at least about 40 minutes or so now without a tornado warning, but when you see these radar features where you see that inflow notch there's another there just out by Rocky. And then even if you look out towards Eakley right here, see a little bit of an inflow notch as well. Definitely starting to see that low-level jet beginning to at least play a role in our weather. So the tornado risk still continues. While we do not have any tornado warning, still continues. When it comes to hail, looking at about ping pong ball size hail south of Cordell. That's where the radar is finding. Some of that's probably going to melt as it makes its way down to the ground, but still definitely going to be an issue with that. So the risk continues. Once again, we do not have any tornado warnings at all, but we're still looking at that threat continuing as we go into the next at least 3 hours. This tornado warning tornado watch remains in effect until 10 o'clock. Abigail, Jess, over to you for an update.
Okay, Damon, want to take a look at a picture just of high water. This is out in Garfield County. The emergency manager out there sent this to us, and we're getting your pictures that you're sending in as well. So please keep sending them into Facebook and on the KOCO mobile app. But this was sent in from Mike, the emergency manager in Garfield County, of just some of the high water out there. This is 30th and Garriott on the east side of Enid, and he said there's just a lot of high water in the area. Several roads underwater. They've had to put up barricades to block them off, especially in the northern part of the county, and they've had some high water rescues too.
We saw some crazy pictures coming from Kremlin as well. Right now it seems like flooding is the majority of the threat here for most of the state. Of course, we're keeping a close watch on the tornado threat, hail, that sort of thing, but right now so many people dealing with flooding in different areas of the state. We've seen Pond Creek, we mentioned Ponca City. Yeah, just look at these images coming in a little bit earlier in Kremlin, also in that same county though, just hammered by the amount of water. And Damon, the ground is already so saturated. I was reporting live at the Cimarron River in Guthrie just a couple weeks ago where that was expected to crest. So we are not in a situation, which is rare here in Oklahoma, where we do not need rain. I know our ag and our farmers and our folks out there love the rain, but not when it's too much. Too much of a good thing.
And it's already too much at this point, Damon, and we're still going to get more.
Yeah, it really has been too much of a good thing. I know the wheat crop is really beginning to suffer. Cornfields are now beginning to suffer as well. So the tornado threat, here's an update at 7:10 on this Monday night. The tornado threat is obviously noticeably lower now than what we had at about 2 and 3 o'clock this afternoon, but it's not over yet. We're still looking at these little inflow notches here, and we're really going to start looking for these quick QLCS spin-up tornado threats that we're going to see as we go into the evening here. Those are going to be those embedded tornadoes where they're fast, but they can, if they occur over a populated town, can do quite a bit of damage still. So I've got to watch these inflow notches that we're seeing now setting up from Granite, Sentinel, Hobart, towards Hinton, Eakley here. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued. This is mainly going to be for 60-mile-per-hour winds moving up to north. This is going to be north of the boundary, so the tornado threat is much lower with this cell here than, say, any storms that are going to be down in this warmer area. Still, though, watching for quarter-size hail, winds of 60 miles per hour from Hinton to Bridgeport, out towards Weatherford, Corn, Colony, Cordell. Rotation tracker doesn't really show a whole lot of strong rotation. We do see at least some rotation, not very tight, just west of Lukiba. And then another area of broad rotation out by Corn. But this right here is going to be at least one of the tighter rotation areas. And you can see that inflow where those winds are just rushing through Lukiba, going up just north of Eakley and then coming back around. So definitely looking at least a wind threat out of that, at least an area that could see the potential for a quick spin up. Going to keep a close eye on that. We have Sky 5. We have Storm Command. Let's go out to Michael right now. Michael, give us an update on where you are and what you're seeing.
All right, Damon, I'm going to take my 360 cam and just run it down this line. So we are just south of Minco. I've had some people asking me on social media, on Facebook, where are you? And so you can see the view here. We're right here. As a matter of fact, I'm panning our 360 camera up and down the boundary right there. When you go north of that boundary, temperatures drop into the 60s instantaneously. I'm talking about a 20-degree drop, Damon. When you go from 82 to 62 in about, I don't know, 30 feet. It's crazy. And when that happens, your windows fog up completely. So it all depends on which side of the boundary you're on. We're on the south side of the boundary. We have south winds. You could still have a tornado in this type of situation. I've been watching radar and been noticing the trends of a few showers trying to develop as the low-level jet is beginning to kind of start up. There's one that's down southwest of Anadarko, and also a few that are south of me, down south and east of Chickasha. And we're just going to keep an eye on those for the south side of the metro. In fact, I'm thinking about working my way back over toward I-44 just in case one of those begins to intensify, one down near Lindsay, for instance, or down near Ninnekah, just east of Chickasha, because all it would take would be for one of those in this amount of shear that we have, that we could have a situation like we had earlier today with tornadoes again. So the one good thing I will say, though, is I continue to see the areas that are north of the boundary, like even in parts of Edmond, northwest Edmond up to Guthrie, back over towards Cimarron City, Kingfisher, Okarche, El Reno. Those areas, I would say the tornado risk is definitely lower, much lower than what we had earlier. And while you still could get some strong damaging winds, and then of course we have the significant risk of flooding, especially as we move into the overnight period. It looks like to me the area of greatest risk for tornadoes is shifting a little bit further south now.
Definitely can see that area shifting a little bit farther down to the south. And Michael, we do see those showers beginning to pop up, at least a little bit more intensity between Rush Springs and Lindsay. So all thunderstorms have to start somewhere. So we're definitely watching for these showers that you see that are now beginning to develop down as you go just towards Chickasha, east of Chickasha, and as you go down to the southwest here. So in the early stages, but still that warm front, that boundary pushing down to the south through Oklahoma City, down towards Tuttle. So I do see at least this risk continuing. It's not in the we're not done with the threat. Now, if you are in northern Oklahoma and even northwestern Oklahoma, yeah, your risk has really come down fairly substantially here. But still, at this hour, we continue with the threat for severe weather. So we're going to watch closely as the low-level jet begins to increase for these storms begin to ramp back up. So Eakley, Alfalfa, Corn, Cloud Chief, down towards Godebo. As you can see here, storms continue to develop and pretty much move north of the boundary. So they go up, they go north, they become more heavy rain and hail producers, but the risk still continues at this current time as more showers are beginning to develop as we go down by Gracemont and even as you go down towards Ninnekah and into eventually Kreiner and Dibble. On the left-hand side of your television screen, see the picture coming in from Chris Lee. We also have Sky 5 currently up right now. A lot of rain, still looking for these low rings, and at times you can see some low rings are definitely evident. Definitely there. We had one not too long ago. Let's go to Shane Helton. Shane is going to be very close to Dill City, making his way just southeast of Burns Flat. Shane, give us an update on what you're seeing.
And Damon, I don't know if there was an area of circulation came through here or not, but look at these trees. These trees are busted, and they're laying down. The trees on the left of my shot, they're leaning towards these busted trees. The trees on the right of my shot, they're leaning towards the busted trees, which kind of is an indication that there was an area of circulation that has come through here this afternoon. Now, with that, we were not positive what happened here. We just know that trees are busted, and it does kind of look suspicious. But I want to turn the camera here, zoom in just a little bit, and you're going to see this is what we're running into with the water. Look at how the water has filled the ditches, and now it can't come around. It's filled the actual culvert underneath the roadway, and it's starting to come out and around the mailbox and the driveways and stuff like that. This is happening quite a bit down here in this area, so there's still definitely a real threat of flooding down here. And in fact, I'm pretty sure that we are now in another flash flood warning right here. So back to you, Damon.
You actually, Shane, you are in a flash flood warning that goes until 10:15 this evening. So definitely very interesting to see that damaged set of trees. We've had a lot of tornadoes today. Knowing the environment, we've also had a lot of quick spin-up tornadoes, so would not be surprised whatsoever if that was at least a quick spin-up tornado that just happened to do some damage over the trees. And if we're going to have tornadoes, and we know we've had quite a few today, that's where you want to keep those tornadoes, which is going to be over some open land and not damaging any homes or any structures like that. So still looking for some embedded tornado threats as we look at these, as we look at our rotation trackers. Not very tight. It's not very significant. Got some cells now going up as you make your way down to the south. All these cells continue to be the ones that we're always most concerned about at first. We can definitely see at least that inflow. Storm kind of getting that kidney bean look to it. Definitely not over yet. So as long as it remains by itself, and it still poses quite the risk. You can see we've got Nick Bender up in the Gracemont area. We'll watch this storm closely, but it's going to move up to the north and will likely interact with this cluster of storms that we have out across northern Oklahoma. Got a few more showers starting to go up down by Rush Springs. Much bigger cluster storms. It's now starting to make its way back over the same areas from Weatherford, Clinton, as you make your way out towards Hinton and Calumet. So the risk is definitely not over. And we definitely still have quite a bit of lightning, but right now the severe thunderstorm warnings have been all tied up to this area from Hinton, Weatherford, Clinton, Corn, down towards Burns Flat, Dill City, Sentinel, and as you make way north of Granite. Severe thunderstorm warnings mainly for hail, and we're just looking at about, or mainly for winds, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Not the big of a hail threat. So yes, the tornado risk has really decreased substantially from what it was earlier today, but it's not over yet. It's still going to continue for the next few hours. As we go up to the north, lots of heavy rain continues from Blackwell, Bremen, Newkirk, Ponca City. The heaviest of the rain is going to be where we find all the pink, and we're seeing that right now making its way through Stillwater as you go towards Orlando, Perkins, and into Payne County. So heavy rain continues, lots of heavy rain. We're going to see a couple inches of rain when all is said and done. And yeah, I mean, we're not going to be running the sprinkler systems for probably the entire summer. It's going to feel like with the wet weather pattern that we have. Got to still watch out for some embedded circulations. There's going to be one northeast of Perkins. Moving up to the northeast, pretty much this entire way for the most part, with the exception of this block right here, is severe warned on. So putting a storm track up to the east. With that, we'll go into Glencoe at 731, Rambo 735, Pawnee 743, Blackburn's 802, and then the town of Cleveland at 812. Once again, severe thunderstorm warning with that line. Moving up to the northeast, Jonathan, we're still watching closely for these embedded circulations along the leading edge, but as of right now, I think it's safe to say that the tornado risk looks much lower than it did earlier, but it's still not zero.
It's all about those supercells, and are they discrete? Are they ahead of the front? Are they behind the front? And it looked like overall, And this is what we like to see with storms, is when they form a line, because the updraft and the downdraft, they start interacting. So for example, let's say the storm that Stephen Jones is on starts looking pretty good and it has good inflow, but the storm from the southwest comes in and its precip comes in and crushes it. And that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're seeing. You can clearly see this is completely multicellular. Look at all these cells. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it's just a daisy chain is all it is. And this is good. Again, we may have some embedded circulations in there, but when we look at the overall boundary and what the winds are doing, I personally think that the majority of these storms are behind the front. I think they're all behind the front. I think the front is now has come through Oklahoma County. I'll just kind of highlight the line here. So I really think the front is about right here. And so I think majority of those storms, the tornado risk has been really reduced, which is great. Unfortunately, the flooding threat will continue. So for example, Oklahoma City, we haven't had a lot yet, but watch the storms coming in from the southwest as they train and move over the same area. So if I were to pick some areas that haven't flooded yet, for example, I'd say Canadian County. You got just a parade of rain. You got the cell that Stephen Jones is on north of Binger. You got the cell out near Corn that Chris Lee is on. That's coming in, and that's that training effect. Again, like train cars on a railroad track. They're just kind of all lined up. They're going to move over the same area, and they're going to lay down some really continuous heavy rain, and that goes all the way back down to Hobart. So there's like 1, 2, 3 big cells which are going to be marching in. So again, overall, personally, I think we're not done with the tornado risk, because the tornado risk can come in multiple forms. So what are we looking for? Any storms that fire in the warm sector, if they're discrete and they explode, it's still only 7 o'clock. The jet stream winds are going to get worse tonight. So that's what we'll have to watch for. We'll have to watch for any discrete cells down here off the dry line, down in parts of Texas. Those are a ways out, a couple hundred miles away. But what will eventually happen, again, these storms down in the south, they may form into a bow. That bow may come into Oklahoma City. And that bow could have what we call that, it's very technical. I've talked about this in my Facebook Live streams, QLCS, I know we have all those acronyms, quasi-linear convective system. It's like a mini bow echo where you get those quick spin-ups. We call them quick spin-ups or QCLS tornadoes, and I think that's a threat we're gonna see later tonight. It's gonna be a long night. Again, it's not storming OKC right now. We've got storms off to the west, but there's a lot more that will eventually move on in. But right now, risk for tornadoes for Oklahoma City right now a lot lower than what we saw earlier today.
And that's a great thing to say. A lot of us were saying earlier, last couple of days, look, we hope that these big track tornadoes that a lot of the data was indicating, we didn't want it to happen, and we're glad that it did not happen here. Now, we unfortunately still saw it down by Mangum today. So Mangum definitely saw quite the threats, definitely saw quite the tornado. That didn't stay on the ground very long, but it did stay on the ground long enough for there to be damage. We also had damage out of northern Oklahoma. Flooding has been just incredible, and it's going to continue as we go into the overnight. So that was a tornado earlier. You can see on the left-hand side of your television screen down by Mangum. That's definitely a sizable tornado. Could have been on the ground much longer. Thankfully, it was not, but still, that was definitely a big-time tornado that could have done a lot of damage had it hit a populated area. It did hit Mangum, but just clipped the western and northwestern side of town. So lots of heavy rain continues. We see all that falling here just north and west of town, and slowly this is going to spread to the east-northeast. Once again, that's the tornado that we saw earlier in Mangum. That's a sizable tornado. Let's go to Chris Lee right now. Chris Lee, give us an update on what you're seeing.
Yeah, I'm near the town of Colony in southwest Oklahoma. That's, if you're not familiar with the area, just straight south of Weatherford, about 30 miles along I-40, south of I-40. I'm looking at this gust front, this line of storms that's coming through the front edge of it. You can kind of see it as it's coming. We've been looking for inflow areas and little eddies of spin-ups that we've been, while the storms were discrete, there were some pretty good inflow areas, but now it's really kind of formed into one big long line, and while we keep looking for interesting things up and down that line, I really haven't seen anything too concerning lately. So we are going through kind of a transition here, like Jonathan and Damon, you've been talking about, but Right now, where I am at, this portion of the line anyway, just seems to be more of a squall line type of situation, and mostly outflow winds coming out from the storms and not being sucked into the storms, and also just incredible amounts of rain.
There is going to be an incredible amount of rain. So this is what we're going to see as we go into the next few hours. We're going to still deal with quite a bit of heavy rain. We're